It was New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2020. The world was desperate for a fresh start. After nearly a year of lockdowns, fear, and uncertainty caused by COVID-19, the arrival of 2021 felt like hope, a chance to breathe again. In the Philippines, restrictions had loosened just enough for small gatherings. Hotels reopened. Parties returned, albeit discreetly. And for Christine Angelica Dacera, this night promised joy. She was 23 years old, a flight attendant for Philippine Airlines, beloved by her friends and family. Christine was the kind of woman everyone noticed, vibrant, charismatic, and fiercely independent. That evening, she checked into room 2209 at the City Garden Grand Hotel in Makati. The plan? A small party with friends, a night of music, laughter, and champagne, the first step into a brighter year. But by noon the next day, Christine was dead. What happened inside room 2209? Was it a tragic accident or a heinous crime? To answer that, we need to start at the beginning. Christine arrived at the hotel around 10 p.m. She was in high spirits. With her were several male friends. Some she knew well, others only as acquaintances. Reports later identified them as mostly members of the LGBTQ+ community, men Christine trusted. The party started like any other. Drinks flowed. Karaoke echoed through the room. Videos taken that night showed Christine laughing, dancing, and singing, blissfully unaware that these were her final hours. But somewhere between midnight and dawn, things took a dark turn. By 10 a.m. on January 1st, Christine complained of dizziness and blurred vision. Friends tried to help her by letting her rest in the bathtub. Some claimed she vomited and became unresponsive. By noon, panic set in. Her companions frantically called hotel staff and emergency services. When medics arrived, Christine was unconscious with no pulse. They performed CPR and rushed her to Makati Medical Center, but it was too late. At 5 p.m., Christine Angelica Dacera was declared dead on arrival. A young life, gone, just like that. But death was only the beginning of the storm. Within hours, the Makati City Police released a statement that would ignite national outrage. Christine Dacera, 23, was raped and murdered during a New Year's Eve party. No further details, no evidence presented. Just that explosive claim. The announcement came after an initial autopsy that noted bruises and lacerations on Christine's body. Police suggested these were signs of sexual assault. Then came the number that made headlines. 11 men, all attendees of the party, were named as suspects. By January 2nd, #JusticeForChristine trended across social media. The nation was enraged. The narrative was clear. A young woman was raped and killed by men she trusted. But as the days passed, that narrative began to crack. Before we move to the unraveling of this case, ask yourself, was this a crime or a tragedy misread? And what does this say about truth in the age of viral outrage? The day after Christine's death, the story dominated every major news outlet in the Philippines. But this wasn't just news. It was a firestorm. A young woman, a luxury hotel, 11 male companions, a shocking claim of rape and murder. It had all the elements of a national scandal. And the public wanted blood. On January 1st, 2021, just hours after Christine's death, Makati police made an explosive statement. This is a case of rape and homicide. No hesitation, no mention of pending tests or full autopsy results. The chief of police, Colonel Harold Depositar, told reporters that Christine had bruises and lacerations, including abrasions on her thighs, which suggested sexual assault. They claimed that a ruptured aortic aneurysm was the cause of death, but the bruises indicated foul play. And then came the headline-grabbing number. 11 men were under investigation. By January 2nd, 3 of those men were already detained. John Paul Halili Gregorio Angelo de Guzman Rommel de Loro Galido. The others were declared at large. Social media exploded with outrage. Influencers, celebrities, and ordinary citizens demanded justice for Christine. Hashtags like #StopTheAbuse, #ProtectWomen, and #RapeCultureMustEnd dominated Twitter. The court of public opinion had spoken. These men were guilty. But were they? The first autopsy report, conducted on January 1st, stated that Christine died from a ruptured aortic aneurysm, a sudden tear in the wall of the main artery. That alone was unusual for a healthy 23-year-old, but not impossible. Some congenital conditions make this fatal event unpredictable. However, the report also mentioned multiple bruises and scratches, including on her arms and legs. To many, this looked like proof of a struggle. To the police, it was enough to claim homicide. But then came the twist. No semen was detected during the initial exam. Toxicology tests were pending. There were traces of alcohol and prescription drugs, but nothing illegal. So if this was rape, where was the evidence? Christine's mother, devastated and furious, went public with accusations. "My daughter was drugged and raped. She was killed by those men." Her voice cracked with anger on national TV. The image of a grieving mother only fueled the outrage. The family demanded a second autopsy, and this changed everything. On January 10th, an independent forensic pathologist reviewed Christine's body and concluded no evidence of sexual intercourse, forced or otherwise, no presence of illegal drugs. Cause of death remained the same, ruptured aortic aneurysm. In other words, Christine died of a natural medical condition, not rape, not murder. The bruises? Possibly from attempts to revive her. The scratches? Likely from moving her body. What about the vaginal lacerations initially reported? The second autopsy dismissed them as post-mortem changes and effects of medical intervention. Suddenly, the sensational narrative collapsed. By late January, the Department of Justice ordered the release of the 3 detained men. There was no probable cause for rape or homicide charges. By April 2021, the case was practically dead, legally at least. But in the court of public opinion, the scars remained. The Christine Dacera case had gone from a national outrage to a national embarrassment. But the damage was done. And now the real question was, who was to blame? When the second autopsy revealed that Christine's death was not a crime, the public didn't know what to believe. How could a story so explosive collapse so completely? To answer that, we need to examine what happened outside the hotel room, in the media, on social networks, and in the halls of power. From the start, the Christine Dacera case was treated as open and shut murder by the media. News anchors used dramatic headlines: "Flight attendant gang raped and killed." "Justice for Christine. Hunt for the suspects begins." Television panels debated the dangers of partying culture and toxic masculinity. Talk shows speculated about Christine's final moments, turning her life and death into primetime entertainment. But there was one problem: facts were missing. Police had not completed forensics. Yet reporters framed the story as a brutal rape case, and when the truth emerged, the media barely corrected their narrative. The damage was already done. If traditional media fanned the flames, social media poured gasoline on them. Hashtags like #JusticeForChristine trended for days. Influencers posted angry videos. Celebrities called for death penalties for the accused. Dozens of viral posts named and shamed the 11 men, sharing their photos, workplaces, and families. People doxed them, threatened them, destroyed them. Even after their names were cleared, the internet never forgets. Screenshots remain. Rumors live forever. In the digital age, an accusation can be a life sentence, even when you're innocent. For the 11 men who attended that party, life would never be the same. Jobs lost. Careers ended. Relationships shattered. Some had to leave the country. Others live in hiding. One man said, "Even after the truth came out, people still look at me like a criminal." They weren't guilty of murder or rape, but in the eyes of society, they were guilty of being there. The Makati police faced a storm of criticism, declaring a case of rape and homicide without evidence, mishandling the crime scene, allowing embalming before a second autopsy, leaking sensitive information to the press. 2 senior officers were relieved of duty, but for many Filipinos, that wasn't enough. This case exposed a systemic problem, a rush to judgment for the sake of headlines. Christine's family, still in grief, refused to accept the official findings. Her mother accused authorities of covering up the truth. She claimed powerful people were protecting the guilty. "My daughter was healthy. She was strong. How could she just die like that?" For her, the aneurysm explanation felt like an insult. She vowed to keep fighting, even as the case faded from the news cycle. So, what do we take away from this tragedy? Due process matters. Accusations spread faster than facts. And once public opinion decides, truth becomes irrelevant. Media responsibility. Sensational headlines make ratings but destroy lives. Digital vigilantism kills innocence. The internet acts as judge, jury, and executioner, without evidence. In the end, Christine's story became bigger than her death. It became a mirror, reflecting a society quick to outrage, but slow to seek truth. And that might be the most tragic part of all. /emphasize, close bracket. By the time the storm began to settle, one question lingered. How did a single case spiral so far out of control? To understand that, we need to examine the 3 pillars of this tragedy: forensics, law enforcement, and media dynamics. On paper, the cause of death was clear: a ruptured aortic aneurysm. Forensic experts explained that this can happen suddenly, even in young people, due to genetic weakness of the artery wall. Stress, alcohol, and exertion can trigger it. No foul play required. But the first autopsy report included details that fueled suspicion: bruises on the arms and legs, scratches on the body, alleged lacerations in the genital area. To the public, these details screamed assault. Yet pathologists later clarified the bruises, likely from CPR attempts and being moved; the scratches, from medical equipment and post-mortem handling; the lacerations, post-mortem tissue breakdown, not proof of rape. But by the time this clarification arrived, the narrative was already viral. The Philippine legal system thrives on due process. But in Christine's case, that principle was shattered in hours. The police declared rape and homicide before completing toxicology, DNA testing, comprehensive forensic review. This premature announcement did three things: triggered mass hysteria online, pressured investigators to stick to the narrative, destroyed the lives of people later proven innocent. Later, the Department of Justice criticized Makati police for reckless statements. 2 officers were reassigned, but systemic reform? Still pending. The Christine Dacera case became a textbook example of digital vigilantism. Consider the timeline. Hours after her death, hashtags trend nationwide. Within 24 hours, suspects' names and faces flood the internet. By 48 hours, death threats appear in comments and private messages. The accused men were judged and executed socially before they even saw a courtroom. In this trial by Twitter, evidence doesn't matter. Emotions do. And when the truth emerged that there was no crime, the outrage didn't vanish. It simply shifted into silence. But the damage was irreversible. For Christine's family, the official conclusion, natural death, felt impossible to accept. Her mother repeatedly asked, why were there bruises? Why did she die so suddenly? Why were they in the same room? Grief has a way of seeking villains, and when answers seem unsatisfying, suspicion thrives. This left the family torn between mourning privately and fighting publicly. Even now, some relatives maintain that something happened that night beyond what the reports say. The Christine Dacera tragedy wasn't just about one woman. It was about systems and how they fail when pressure, politics, and panic collide. Forensics. Science was clear but late. Law enforcement. Procedure broke under public scrutiny. Media. Sensationalism replaced verification. Social media. Justice became a spectacle. And in the middle of it all was Christine, a daughter, a friend, a young woman with dreams that would never come true. We failed her, not because of what happened in that hotel room, but because of what happened after. Christine Angelica Dacera's story was never meant to end like this. A celebration of life became a national tragedy, and in the aftermath, it exposed deep cracks in our systems and in ourselves. After months of investigation, the official conclusion was clear. Christine died of a ruptured aortic aneurysm, likely triggered by alcohol consumption, stress, and physical exertion. There was no conclusive evidence of foul play, no drugs, no deliberate harm. The men accused were cleared, but the truth arrived too late. Lives were already destroyed, reputations shattered, trust broken. 3 lessons we cannot ignore. Lesson 1. Science must speak before emotion. Autopsies take time. Toxicology takes time. Yet we live in a world that demands instant answers. That impatience can ruin lives, and it did. Lesson 2. Police accountability is non-negotiable. Rushing to a conclusion without complete evidence is not just careless, it's dangerous. This case showed why investigative integrity matters more than headlines. Lesson 3. Social media is not a courtroom. Hashtags are not evidence. Viral outrage does not equal truth. And yet, for Christine and the accused, social media became judge, jury, and executioner. Christine's mother once said, "All I want is justice for my daughter." But what does justice look like when the truth feels like betrayal? When the facts cannot silence the questions in a grieving heart? This case left wounds that no verdict could heal. Wounds in one family. Wounds in a society too quick to condemn. When the next tragedy comes, and it will we demand answers or will we demand truth? Will we wait for facts or will we let rage write the story? Christine's story is not just her story. It's a mirror. And what we see in that mirror is up to us. If you believe this case holds lessons for all of us, share this video. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Who failed Christine Dacera the most? The system? The media? Or all of us? Until next time, stay informed, stay critical, and never stop asking the hard questions. This is Dark Dossiers, signing off. Close bracket.